Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hall of Fame session and UX Design Thinking Workshop. My name is Shaun Moore, and I'm super excited to be here with you all today. We have an awesome workshop scheduled for you. So before we get started, I just want to take care of a couple of quick housekeeping items. So if you're new to Zoom, which I don't think many of you are, if you look down below, there is a chat window which we invite you all to utilize so you can connect with your fellow Full Sail students and classmates. But just a quick note, please keep it on topic and keep it classy, please. There is also a Q&A feature, which we ask that you use if you have any questions for our panelists. Sometimes questions in the chat tend to get lost, especially if there's a lot of activity going on down there. So now I would love to introduce you guys to our amazing panelists. That's why you're here, right? All right, well, our first panelist is a 2008 Digital Arts and Design graduate. He is a software developer and designer. Please welcome Mr. Mark Campbell. All right. Hey, Mark. All right. Our next panelist is a 2009 graphic design and 2010 digital arts and design graduate. She is currently a product design manager. She is also a Hall of Fame inductee. Please welcome Miss Margaret Haag. Hey, Margaret.
Hi.
You guys, I really want to thank you all for being here today. This is so awesome. Thank you so much. But I say we just jump right in, right, guys? You want to get started?
Absolutely.
All right, well, take it away.
All right. So it's great that Mark is here because we're going to use him as our little, I don't want to say dummy, but like instrument. So he's going to be like the person that we're going to be using today to move through some of these techniques. So this is something that we use in the product design process. So if you were in our session earlier, we kind of like deep dove into the process of design and understand that has like a lot of facets and stuff. So, it starts anywhere from like user research, gathering insights, a problem statement, and moving through user journeys, like doing journey maps, user flows, wireframes, high fidelity mockups, prototypes, testing, user testing there, And in both these facets of user testing, one being an empathy interview and two being like a user testing, like essentially if you want to test a UI, we call that a user test. Both of these sessions, like if you want to like understand a problem, so you're like, essentially, how has pandemic affected going to college? If you want to understand a problem like that, you essentially need to interview a bunch of people. And if you're going to interview a bunch of people, it's probably guaranteed that a lot of these people are going to be strangers. So these are some techniques that we're going to walk through to essentially help you to, gain empathy, understand the problem, get really deep into essentially like what drives these problems and what people are feeling and their emotions. And so I like to think when I learned all of these techniques, as long as I've been working at Capital One, which is about 6.5 years now, that I feel like I've become a better, like more empathetic person because of these tools. And you can use these in your projects. So a lot when we talk about, storytelling, and making presentations, we always talk about knowing your audience. And this is a key to that. This is a key to understanding and knowing your audience so you can design the best experiences for them. So you don't necessarily have to use this in like a UX UI practice. You could use this if you're, making a poster, if you're trying to like make anything else, logos, branding, all of that comes with market, user research, who your target market is, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to end up sharing two things with you. So the first thing, it's a really huge packet. So Stanford has a school that's called like the Stanford D School, which stands for the Stanford Design School. And they came up with a lot of these techniques and they have a lot of amazing material out there. And I'm going to share two in the chat with you. So as we go through them, you'll have them. And so you'll be able to refer back to these things. But in the interest of time, questions, anything, we're not going to go through this whole packet because it's like a ton of pages. It's like 90 pages. So this is essentially like an all day kind of thing that you would learn how to do. So we're just going to focus on the interview part, and I'm going to use Mark and I'm going to interview him. And to make this interactive, I'm going to have like all of us essentially ideate. So while we're interviewing Mark, I want everyone, if you would please. So you can take notes on your computer if you want. If you have a pen and paper or pencil paper, that works as well. So at the end, after we interview him, we're going to ideate. So we're going to come up with a couple of things. If anybody would want to share, I think we have the ability to essentially like promote you. So you'd be able to share your ideas with us. And if any of my panelist people like Shaun or Jason or anything want to join in and ideate some stuff and share later, that would be great as well. All right. So we're going to jump into this material. So when they talk about interviewing, we talk a little bit about interview preparation, which involves a couple of things. So I love this thing is like time with users is precious. So you have to make the most of it. And that's pretty true. Standard sessions in practice in like the way we do them run anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. So an hour is where you essentially have an hour and you feel like it's a long time, but sometimes at the end you're like, oh my gosh, that hour went too quickly. And sometimes when we even schedule sessions for 45 minutes, we feel like we're running out of time at the end. So you want to never abandon your responsibility and prepare for interviews, especially when following up with users after testing. So, all right. So this is our thing for engagement. All right. So how to prepare for an interview. So essentially you start brainstorming some questions. So our experience today, we're going to focus on, there's like a default that comes with the next packet that I'll share with you. It's called the gift giving experience. So normally that set of questions is going to focus around gift giving, right? So I think about that problem. So we want to, you usually start with how might we? So you say, how might we improve the gift giving experience? And then you start forming some questions around that. So those are the meat. That's going to be the meat of the questions. But when we start out the interview, we're going to start out with what they usually call like warm up questions, So if you ever watched a TV show where they give a lie detector test and they ask you a couple of questions that just to, kind of calm you down, they ask you familiar questions. What's your name? Where do you live? Where do you work? That's just stuff to like get you comfortable, and set the scene. And then they start asking you, gradually start asking you harder and harder hitting questions. So we talked about brainstorming. We talked about identifying order the themes. So anything that is revolving essentially around this gift giving experience, that's how we want to like theme everything. Once you've go through questions, you may find redundancies. So if you do that, if you find a bunch of questions that kind of repeat themselves, you're able to just kind of refine them down, ask them once, and you wouldn't believe where one question will take you. So you usually try not to ask yes or no questions because they're essentially dead ends. What you want to do is answer questions that are more open-ended. So it's like if I ended up asking Mark, do you go to the grocery store? His answer is most likely yes or no, right? Does that tell me much? Not really. I can say to Mark, like, how often do you go to the grocery store? And that gives me an answer with data behind it. If he says 3 or 4 times a month, I'm like, okay, I know, approximately he goes 3 or 4 times a month. And then I can understand how many times he goes a year, and then multiply that by 5 years. And now I have data around that. It talks a little bit. We won't go too into this stuff because we're gonna, I think, spend a bunch of the time kind of like interacting and doing some stuff. So just to give you some ground rules, not ground rules, but some things that you might not think about, is that we all carry biases with us. So it's important in these sessions not to take your biases into them. This is all about someone else. Like you essentially have to turn off who you are and try completely to learn and understand. You are here for this other person. You are literally here to learn everything that you can about this problem and how another person views that problem. So you ask why a lot, like a ton, something like, if somebody, and he's like, I go to the grocery store 3 times a month. And I'm like, why? And then he'll tell me why. And then I go, why? They usually call it the 5 whys. So you can get really, really deep into these things about that. So encouraging stories, looking for inconsistencies. So sometimes pay attention to nonverbal cues. Yeah, don't be afraid of silence. That's a really, really, really big one. It's okay if it's quiet for 30 seconds. Sometimes people just need a minute, they need a couple seconds to figure out what you're saying and then answer it for themselves. They're trying to like essentially pull something from their head, remember a story, remember a feeling, and you don't have to fill the silence is one thing. You don't have to do that, and that's okay. All right, so I really am excited. This is about like a little bit of prep that we need. So we're gonna dive right in, and I will also share this packet with you as well. So usually we do this, like if we did this on campus in a session, we'd be able to like set this in a partner way where, so I would be able to partner you up and then you'd be able to interview each other. But that's not going to happen this time. So we're just going to interview Mark for now. And thanks for being my participant, Mark.
I wanted to be here.
So what we're going to do is we're going to interview him. So as I'm asking him questions, you're just going to like write down what he's saying. And you don't have to be like word for word or verbatim. But if a quote like sticks out to you, if something is really compelling, definitely try to get that word for word, like put it in quotations because we can save that stuff for later. All right. So Mark, we're here today. So we're just going to get your thoughts on like the gift giving experience. We're going to essentially like just see how you feel about it. If there's anything we can improve. Okay. So, if you wouldn't mind, would like tell us your name and like where you live.
My name is Mark Campbell. I live in Springfield, Virginia.
Right, Springfield, Virginia. So what's it like there today? What's your weather?
Yeah, it's great today. The weather's good. I was just outside early this morning to go train, get loose, and get my day started. I haven't been outside since, but it was great.
So when you said train and get loose, what do you train for?
My happiness. No, I just get my workout in, in the morning and before I get my day started. It's like the first thing I do, and then go right into literally from working out like straight into meetings. So
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be doing work right before my first meeting, so I like to keep my mind off of things. Get a workout for my first meeting.
So you would say that's one of your hobbies. Like, so what do you do for a living?
I am a front-end engineer. So I handle a lot of the coding development process stuff for a DoD project. So it's a lot of, there's some coding involved. I would say like nowadays it's mostly management more than it is coding.
What are some other hobbies that you have?
I love basketball. That is like my thing. It's odd. I'm a developer. Usually when I go play basketball, people say, "Oh, you're an engineer? I thought you were like an athlete." No.
That's pretty funny. What kind of like hobbies do engineers have?
That's
typically
a good question. I don't know. It's like you get these lumped into a box, and you're assuming that engineers write code all day.
Okay, that's the only thing you do. You're a one-trick pony, apparently. You're only like a one-faceted person, and that's it.
Right. I love basketball and I love art. So those are my two things.
And you love art. Cool. Okay, so moving on from that, so we're going to dive a little bit into, like, thank you for sharing that, and we're going to dive a little bit into this gift giving thing. Can you tell me, so when was the last time you received a gift from someone?
I really don't pay attention to that kind of stuff, but if I had to like really think on that, I'd probably say it had to be Christmas, I guess.
Okay. Have you given a gift to someone recently?
What have I given recently? I think, I gave my wife a vacation. So
you gave your wife a vacation. All right. That's cool. Okay. So that's a really cool example.
That count as a gift, or are we looking for something more physical?
No, that's perfect. It could be a gift. Yeah. Anything you can think of, essentially. Let's see. All right. So you gave your wife a vacation. So we're going to dive into like giving your wife a vacation. So did she know about this vacation?
Oh, she knew for sure.
Yeah, she knew. Okay.
But she
So
had
how did you start planning?
I didn't plan any of it. Yeah. So she came to me with a choice. She's like, you can either A, go to Cuba with my cousins, or B, I go to the beach with your sisters. And I said, beach with my sisters.
Okay. Why did you choose the beach?
Well, a lot of things. We got COVID going on, so I figured, hey, go to the beach. It's a lot closer, a lot more manageable. I don't really know what's going on in Cuba.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, Puerto Rico. I don't know what's going on in Puerto Rico. So.
No worries. Okay. COVID is closer. So what beach are you going to?
She went to Ocean City. She went to Ocean City. That's nearby one here.
So OCMD. Okay. So what you're telling me is she didn't go with you. You didn't go with her.
No. This was
Okay.
a husband-free, kid-free weekend.
So this is a girls' trip.
Yeah, it was definitely a girls' trip.
Okay.
It was a huge girls' trip.
So why did your wife want a girls' trip?
She needed some time to, what is it? I don't know how to put that. She definitely had to like detox, get away. So away from kids and me. I'm a bit much. So she just needed some time to get away. And we usually do it every year, or maybe during the year and then again in the summer. So, she gets like 2 or 3 trips, and this was one of them. So it's just some getaway time. Me, I prefer to always work, and I have to be pried away from my laptop. So, it's her thing. So I indulge.
So when you talk about giving that gift to her, knowing that she wants to detox, and that's her thing, why do you do that?
Because I want to stay married.
Okay. So why do you think that's important to her? And you?
Right. I mean, when she comes back refreshed and ready to go, and it works out for my advantage. So yeah, I like my wife refreshed. And I feel like part of it is just it's, I don't know, it because of COVID and everything going on. I feel like we need that interaction, and so we need to get away. And for her, because that is her thing, and she likes to get away, and that's not so much my thing. I could at least do that for her and allow her to get away, even though it's not my thing.
Mm-hmm. Did you encounter, so like, I know you said you didn't plan anything, but did you or her encounter like any problems? Like, I mean, I know you want to give this gift to her, right? Is there anything that like got in the way?
Right. Initially, I mean, the first choice was Puerto Rico, and, our reservation was just trying to understand, like, the times we're living in. Is that trip really plausible? I mean, how much fun can you really have? Are you like restricted to your hotel room?
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a lot of activities that you're going to be able to actually do in the area? How safe are the activities? And I don't feel like we got a sense of what that was going to look like there versus Ocean City, where we know the rules and regulations in the state and what has to be followed. So it made it a lot easier to choose Ocean City versus.
Okay. So when you knew the rules and regulations of that state, what was it about Puerto Rico that you weren't able to find out that?
We didn't really understand, like, the procedures that they could follow there. And we didn't know whether or not they were going to be able, I mean, because our cousins were planning the trip, but, every time we asked about the activities, we could never get a straight answer on whether or not they were going to actually be able to go to the activities, or whether or not the activities were going to be like crowded. So because we couldn't get a sense of that, we didn't really feel comfortable.
Okay. So what did you do? So you said you couldn't get like clear answers. Who were you asking?
We were asking the cousin who was planning the trip.
Say what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Cousin who was planning the trip. Right.
Your cousin. Okay.
Cousin.
Oh, the cousin. The cousin had no answers. Did you try any other sources?
No.
Okay. And why is that?
Good why. Laziness, I guess. We just wanted, want a done for you kind of thing.
Okay. Did the error, I know you talked about essentially like the word safety. So what other factors? So I know essentially like she went to Ocean City, Maryland. She was going to be around other people, and the whole thing of COVID is like being around other people. So what were the other factors that contributed into like feeling non-safe, in like making the Puerto Rico thing happen?
Right. Mask procedures, whether or not people were actually going to be wearing masks. And I can tell you from the Instagram posts, they are not.
Okay.
They are there now. I've been watching Instagram, and glad I didn't choose Puerto Rico because they're doing their hot girl summer, and I did not want my wife there.
Okay. And from giving this gift, what are some like emotions, that your wife is feeling? I know we're not here to, essentially like ask her this, but
right.
You know what? How does it make you feel when you're able to do something like this for your wife?
I mean, I feel great. Anytime I can get a gift and
yeah,
she gets the glow, works for me.
Okay.
Cash in on that.
Yeah. So what's like, is there anything that you notice about her like before the trip and then after the trip?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's that stuff like?
Pre-trip, she is exhausted and she is a little testy. Is an understatement. It's a little testy. The kids feel it. Like the whole house feels it. It's not just a thing. It's we all feel the tension in the room. And once she's gone on the trip, the tension is free and everyone's happy.
Okay. Tension free, happy mom, happy wife. All right, cool. Well, thank you for answering that.
Okay.
These things are trying to do.
Hugo's right. Yeah, it's definitely a tourist not wearing any mask.
I can't see the chat. Is there anything cool happening in there?
Yeah, people.
Oh, hi people. Hi Hugo. Okay, cool. So let me think. So we did the interview part. So we essentially did number one, we started out and we dug a little deep into some feelings and emotions. And so now we're going to move into like reframing the problem. So things they are trying to do. So essentially, so from these things that we wrote down about Mark and giving this gift to his wife, so about this trip. So we noted some feelings, right? And what I was gathering from this, I like wrote that down. I want to stay married, which was amazing. So he essentially, when you talk about relationships, he wants to help keep his partner happy. So I would say like giving happiness. Let me think about some other stuff. If anyone has any other, so it says things they are trying to do and it's used verbs. So if anyone is picking up on any verbs, feel free to put them in the chat. things that you were gathering from like what we were interviewing with Mark. I would say like relieve tension. Travel safely. I think. Avoid, I would say like avoid conflict too. Like, you know, like.
Absolutely avoid.
Yeah. Yeah. Like avoid conflict, not only, you know, with your wife, but then avoid conflict in, you know, like essentially a different country, you know, so like, since you live in Virginia, you know, and it's close to Maryland, that it seems like, you know, the traveling there is definitely like the knowns and the unknowns are definitely like weighing on you. Okay. So learning things about your partner's feelings. So make inferences from what you heard. So worldview into literature design. So I heard say like pride. I'm gonna say you get a sense of pride. You were like, I feel great. She gets a glow. Giving glowness. Glow. And you did talk about laziness. Gift, it has positive psychological effect. It makes the gift giver. Yep, absolutely, Shaun. I would agree with that as well.
Every time.
Okay, so let's work. I captured some feelings, pride, glow. I like the word glow. I feel like that could be an emotion, like a feeling, you know, radiation, you know, that kind of thing. You did mention exhausted and testy. So those are some of the things, you know, that you feel that your wife is feeling, you know, before something like this. And essentially you want to relieve, like, so provide some relief, comfort. We talked about traveling safely. All right. So when we talk about a problem statement, see, there's a couple of different ways. And if you look up, like, if you Google defining a problem statement, there's different ways you can do this. And there's no right or wrong way. They're just different. So we talked earlier about a how might we. This is essentially a different version of how might we. So we're going to say that Mark wants to give his wife a trip, needs a way to give his wife a trip because she needs okay. So I said that Mark needs to give his wife a trip because she needs time to herself for self-care. So you never, like, if we do this exercise and you're like, or, you know, you start, like, you can write this problem statement essentially any way you want, and don't ever be afraid to come back and change it a little bit, like based on essentially like what you're ideating or moving through this packet, or say that you went through this one round and you came up with some ideas, but you wanted to try it like a different way. You could essentially, based on the stuff that we gathered from what Mark was saying, you could rewrite this a couple of times to come up with different ideas. Okay. So Mark, if you're interested in participating as well, this would be fun. So you just did the interview and we got some feelings for you. And now we have our problem statement that Mark wants to give his wife a trip because she needs time to herself for self-care, right? So that would be our problem statement that goes at the top of this list. And right here, we have 5 squares. So with these 5 squares, what we're going to do is we're going to rapidly ideate. We're going to take about 4 minutes, and we're going to figure out 5 different ways, which could be a riff on, like, if you come up with one idea, you can essentially riff on that. There's no perfect way to do this. I'll tell everybody that. So anything that you're feeling. So we'll come down. We'll essentially try to get 5 on here in 4 minutes. Okay. So everybody ready? All right. I'm going to check my watch. It's 32 after. All right. 4 minutes. All right. Let's go.
I mean, this is easy for me.
Buddy.
Where's the clock at? How are we looking?
I think we maybe have like 30 seconds.
Ooh, can't sketch that fast.
No.
These are my dates.
Yeah.
I'm planning out the next 3 months worth of dates. I could send my wife here.
Yeah. All right. All right. So we're done. 4 minutes. Isn't it amazing what you can come up with in 4 minutes? I feel like super impressed. Okay. So we're supposed to share some solutions and capture feedback. So I would love to get the group's ideation. Or I'm sorry, I would love to get a solution, whoever wants to share a solution. So if you want to pop in the chat, type it out. So while you're doing that, Mark, what was one of your solutions?
Yeah, so one of the solutions I wrote down was a local, because I do live in the DC area and there's a lot to do that costs nothing, was just staying at a local bed and breakfast and just like going on some adventures here. One of the things that was probably written down was just having the fact that she was looking for what activities were available. So activities, local activities that are available, and then having that trip of getting out the house physically. I think a local bed and breakfast with activities scheduled in the area that we're familiar with.
Cool. That's so funny. TJ put in the chat that he was like, bring Puerto Rico to the backyard. What? You were kind of in the same vein. That's pretty cool. So I was thinking about, essentially, I came from a lens of thinking about how to make her feel special, even though she's going on the trip and that something means something to her. So I was like, essentially sneak in her suitcase before she leaves a little care package with include a family picture, that she can put by her bed. So when she gets there, so she doesn't completely forget about you, but she knows you're the reason. Oh, look, Shaun had a care package. That's pretty cool. Awesome.
That's good. I'm going to do that now.
So my boyfriend and I, when somebody will go on a trip, we usually sneak in a note, into the suitcase or something, and it's really cool to find that stuff.
Good right there.
Yeah.
The other thing I really like about this interview process is that if long as you're asking questions in the interview and you're not really looking to go in a direction, and you're not asking leading questions, it keeps everything open. So like at no point in time did you say, well, did you try this? Right. I mean, you were just asking questions. You weren't like forcing me down any path that you had coming into it. So I did like that a lot.
Well, thank you. And it's a hard skill to learn. I have failed a ton of times. You're not supposed to ask any leading questions. You're not supposed to ask any yes or no questions, which is really hard to do. And even on our end, like as you're saying things, I have to think of how to frame them, in a way that I'm going to get an answer out of you. Okay. So when we're talking about this next section here, so we essentially only have like 2 more pages, and I know we have about like 20 minutes left. So it's essentially just taking one of these. So when you have the 5 ideas, now we take one of them and we focus on that. So we generate like essentially a new solution. So we think about the feedback that we've gotten. So I'm going to let this up to you, Mark, since this is your interview. Which idea do you want to move forward with?
That care package, like that is
care package. All right. So you're going to generate, so we're going to use the idea of a care package. And I know I was like kind of specific with the one I had. So when we talk about generating a new idea off of it says generate a new solution. So you're essentially like taking some feedback and generating a new solution. So supposed to be 3 minutes. Okay. So we're going to 43 after. So we'll start right now. And based on a care package, let's generate a new solution.
Not writing anything. I just want to hear what happens because this is going into practice. Taking all of your guys' ideas. Lower the volume just in case my wife is listening. I need this to be a surprising new thing.
All right, so we hit our 3 minutes. Shaun, since you're on here, I'm interested, did you do any more ideation and what did you come up with for our care package? All right. Connect with the concierge ahead of arrival at the resort and pre-plan an adventure, spa day, restaurant suggestion, reservation as a surprise for your partner and their friends.
It goes back to the planning isn't really my thing.
Well, he did say contact the concierge, so that is definitely something a concierge could take care of for you.
Yeah, I guess they could.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jay, wine, chocolate earrings she wore on y'all's first date. Oh, that is pretty good.
You lost them.
Oh,
I've kept track
well, you
of
can
that.
get her some new ones. Okay, so mine was okay. So I don't know what kind of like woman your wife is. So I wrote like you could make like a bag of like so the stuff would be in it. So suntan lotion with her vibe. So they make stuff now that glitters. That's really cool. And I don't know if that's her vibe, but something like that could be really cool. A Bluetooth speaker, so you can listen to music on the beach. A personalized beach towel, whatever that might look like. And since you're in design, that might be a cool thing to do. And I also thought about like, so the spa vibe, I thought about including a gift card, you know, she could like kind of do what she wanted. Maybe it was a Visa gift card or like whatever, but even including something like those face masks, you know, you can buy like the pack ones so that like, so that's like a group activity, but also to hydrate, you know, so it'd be like, oh, like after the beach, you could put this, you know, all the people could like put this on their face and like detox from the day. Mark is gonna have the best year ever.
I'm writing this down.
He's like, hey, can we just do these sessions like once in a while? So we can. Oh, this is super fun. I know we have 15 minutes left, and I know, so essentially like what we would do is kind of like put this together and like give this gift, and we would test it out. So we essentially test this out and then say like what worked, what could be improved. You know, like we have something that Mark can interact with, and we could literally just fold up this paper and be like, hello, I'm giving this to you, you know, and then tell me how you're feeling. So after we do that, we essentially like take his feelings and emotions. You know, we ask him to speak out loudly, everything that he's looking at, touching at, how does that make you feel? And then we write that stuff down. And the reason why we do that is so we're doing the test part, right? And so we say like what works. So we know to keep that. And we say what could be improved. And then we think about that and we go, oh, okay, like maybe there's something that didn't work at all, you know, and he didn't enjoy it. So we kind of like push that to the side. And then there's something that there was something there, but it wasn't quite what he was looking for. So based on his feedback, we say like, how can we improve this part, you know? So that's essentially like how you get closer to knowing people and then how you get closer to, you know, making experiences, you know, for people who essentially use them all the time. Where's my window? I'm trying to like not share my screen anymore.
Things at the top.
There we go. Everything's everywhere. All right, I'm going to stop share. I'm really interested in the group as well. So, Mark, how are you feeling about that?
I think that was great. And what's cool is like when you get to the end of that process, you've created like this loop where you can then go back down the process again. I mean, ultimately, you know, whether it's, you're creating this user experience for someone and you're kind of going over and let's go back down this road again. You can literally go back after you've gotten down this road and you can start the questions all over again. I mean, you don't even necessarily have to go right into the testing the product. You can go to questions again, and maybe we can get, based off of what we have here, we can iterate on another set of questions. And so I think the process is great for getting closer to figuring out what you have to build. I think so often we go into, I have an idea of what I want to build, and then I'm going to get some questions. I'm going to ask questions to affirm that what I want to build is what I should build. And I think by having an open mind and saying, this is what I want to build, and then your users might say, well, this is what we need you to build.
Right.
And oftentimes they're not the same. So I think this is great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very humanizing, when you when you think you have an idea of what the solution should be, and it's kind of off the mark.
Right. I was just talking to someone, a student, last week, and they want to build this educational app, and they came to me and say, "Hey, we've been going over, we've done some wireframes, we have the idea for what the app is going to be," and they pull up this. I see this calendar, and I asked them the first question I asked them was like, "How do you know what you're building involves a calendar application? How do you know that's what the users want?" I said, "Well, we didn't think about that." I said, "What if it's not a calendar? What if it's a single event, and that's all they really care about? Is you're showing me a single event at a time. It has nothing to do with calendar." It's like, "Well, we didn't think about that." It's like, "Well, we should probably ask those questions."
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on what's going on. Yeah. So for everybody, we had like a little session earlier this week where it was like, we're gonna we're gonna test out the technical stuff and make sure everything is good to go and it works. And Mark and I are the same, and like I remembered that morning, we even talked about how we were going to be in the session at like 3:30. I completely forgot about it. And I was like, I realize if it's not on a calendar for me, like, if it's not an event by event thing, I don't remember anything. Like I have to write everything down. Somebody has to send me an invite and then I will be there, and like, so I have to make my own invites, even for today, I had to make my own invites on the calendar, like, yeah, had to I'm like, otherwise I'm just a mess and I forget everything.
I mean, I would do it with this. I would do it with doctor's appointments. It doesn't matter. Like
yes.
my wife goes, "Write it down, Mark."
Yeah.
Right, I'll put it in.
Yeah, this was super fun. I hope everyone, so I did send the two things in the chat. So I'm going to post them again because I think this is super fun too. And I don't know if this is lame, but this might be like something fun to do with your friends at some point that you could like work through like a project together.
I think often we get like so comfortable when we go down a path and we get the idea, we get so comfortable with having what we know in our head, and we go, "Well, there's nothing like it. There's no way we can go into this. This is like my thing, and it has to be unique to me." I think we get into that pocket and we corner ourselves, and we aren't so open to exploring how far that you can still have it be unique to you, but you explore the people who are going to be using it, the people who are going to have the experience. You get to explore and empathize with those folks. And I think that's essential if you're creating an experience that other people are going to have to be a part of, is just to empathize with the folks that are using it and, not get so closed-minded to just it being your thing.
Right. Absolutely. It involves like a lot of listening. And not only listening, but hearing what other people are saying, which is super important. What the hell was I going to say? I don't remember. I was going to say something. What? I don't know. I lost it. It's gone forever. Oh, no, I was going to say, sometimes, I pull like, if y'all need like answers to some questions, like, also don't hesitate to ping your networks. Sometimes I ping Twitter, knowing that there's a network of designers, I'm connected to. And then there's sometimes, like if it's more broader things, for example, when I was working on CreditWise, that's the thing about credit scores, and like a thing that is in the US and is something I can ask literally anybody I know, which is kind of cool. So like, when I came home for Christmas once, I explained a scenario and was just literally doing empathy interviewing with my entire family, like over a Christmas holiday to figure out how to like solve a problem. So it's pretty cool that we can do this stuff. Typically when you like bring people in for sessions, you pay them, it's a thing. And I realize like not everybody has access to, giving something to someone, like giving a monetary gift to someone else. But that's why it's important to like network, and, use your circle. Like you can learn a lot of stuff from people in your circle, especially especially when it comes to like user testing on like, like use this prototype, and kids, they will just pick it up and they will just start pressing things, without you telling them to do stuff. And you can learn a ton of stuff just by observing that. Does anybody have any questions? Did everyone have fun today? I feel like I had a blast. Yeah. All right, Hugo. All right, TJ, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And feel free, everybody who's here and everybody who's in the chat, to find me or Mark on our respective, like networks, LinkedIn, whatever, reach out anytime. I love answering questions for all. If you have anything else, like my email's always open. It's just my first name dot my last name at capitalone.com. Hit me up anytime. And I can't wait to see all of you on campus. I feel like it's still a year away, but like, I'm really excited.
March 2022.
All right, we're there. I hope all y'all are going to be around.
It's going to be my first time on campus since I've left Full Sail, so I can't wait.
We're getting it.
Well, Margaret and Mark, I just want to thank you guys so much for your time today. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Good. And thank you, Shaun. And thank you, Ashlyn. And Amir's here. Oh my God. Hi, Amir. Sorry. I ended up meeting Amir 2 Hall of Fames ago. Well, the last one we had. I ended up meeting Amir and his friend Kevin, and we've like stayed in touch this whole time, which has been pretty cool. So you never know who can be your friend, like here we are, like a year and some later, and I'm still buds with Amir. So that's pretty sweet. But anyway, thank you so much, Full Sail, and everybody for doing this for us. I've had a blast today.